Nothing will make you feel older than feeling stiff and inflexible. However, flexibility is one of the most misunderstood and underutilized aspects of exercise. And this leads to adhesions in the muscles and postural distortions and ultimately a lot of injuries. You cannot build a strong body on top of a weak foundation, and flexibility is part of your foundation. So in this video, I am going to show you all the effective ways to stretch to increase your flexibility. I'm going to show you how to do them properly, and then I'm going to offer you some advice for when you should use each one during different parts of your training. So let's get started. First up is massage. Massage will break up muscle, scar tissue, and adhesions, and will increase your range of motion. The second thing is foam roller. So a good, solid, firm foam roller can roll out the knots in your muscles. Think of them like taking a rubber band and tying knots in them. When you stretch that rubber band, the knots aren't going to stretch. So we've got to smooth those adhesions out, because eventually those will start shortening parts of your body and affecting your posture. So probably seen foam rolling. Foam rolling is pretty simple. You know, the thing you want to remember when you foam roll is that you want to focus on your breathing. When you roll over a trigger point like a knot, you want to stop on it and you want to focus on your breath. And what you want to do is you want to try to stop your body from having basically a fight or flight response, because it's painful. And if you control your breath and you breathe into that area, you'll feel that knot just sort of dissolve, right? So with this, we want to be like a detective. So we are using it in a way, to, essentially we're finding those knots. We're getting leverage on it and we're finding. So when I'm rolling out the hamstrings, it's like, oh, there's one, right? And I just want to kind of stay on it, rock, just barely rock back and forth, focus on my breath for about 30 seconds. And if you do that consistently, you don't have to make a huge production out of it. You want to think of this as like flossing, right? We're preventing plaque from building up in our bodies. And in fact, you do get calcium deposits in your tissues. Now, you can also get massages. Massages will do the same thing. Next up is more of a traditional stretching. So the first thing that the most common thing that people do is what's called passive stretching. And that is literally where you are just hanging out in a stretch. So for like your hamstrings, I'm just literally hanging out in a stretch. This is the way most people stretch, when really it's almost the most ineffective. I mean, it's better than not stretching, but to me, this is like you're recovering from surgery and you're having somebody move you through range of motion to even start the process. What we want to do is be active in our static stretching. So in static stretching, we can be passive or we can be active. We have two ways we can be active. One is by flexing the muscle that is not being stretched. So flexing my quad will tell the hamstring to actually relax, because these are antagonists of each other. It's like my bicep. If I flex my bicep, my tricep will turn off. If I flex my tricep, my bicep will turn off. They have to. They're hardwired that way. So we can use that to our advantage. We can flex our quadriceps. That will tell the hamstrings to turn off, and that will allow us to be able to stretch further into that position. That's one form of active stretching. The second one is called PNF, proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. This is where you're actually flexing the muscle that's being stretched. Now, why would you want to do that? You'd want to do that because when you're stretching a muscle, not all of that fiber is being stretched. So when we actually flex the hamstring and stretch, we're recruiting and grabbing more tissue to be stretched. Okay, so we'll hold that for no more than 10 seconds, somewhere around 3 to 8 seconds, and then we'll relax. Let me show you what that looks like. So in this stretch, I'm going to put my leg up. And here's the thing, if I straighten my leg out completely, I'm gonna flex my quad and turn this off. What I'm trying to do is turn on the hamstring. So I'm gonna bend my knees slightly and I'm gonna push down. Now I'm flexing the hamstring and I'm stretching with that flex, holding it and then relaxing. And now I can go further. We can do that again. Flex, hold, and then relax. You should feel yourself be able to get lower and lower into that. So that is active flexibility, right? We have our reciprocal inhibition. We're flexing the opposite muscle to turn off the muscle we're stretching. And then we have PNF, proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation, where we're actually flexing the muscle we're stretching to grab more fiber for more area to be stretched. Now I'm going to show you dynamic stretching. So for dynamic stretching, this is what you want to do in your warm-up. So for, a dynamic stretch would incorporate a lot of swings and movement, nothing ballistic. We'll get to that next. But in terms of your hamstrings, it would just look a little bit something like this, right? Where we're just sort of dynamically oscillating from back and forth through the range of motion. Then maybe adding a little bit of static here, maybe even, we all know this one, right? Here. That's dynamic stretching. The final one is called ballistic stretching. Now, ballistic stretching is a little bit more catered for athletes who are fully warmed up, and maybe it's almost like a primer for a sport-specific thing that they're doing. A ballistic stretch would be something like kick as hard as you can and as fast as you can. And with that, you're actually going beyond your range of motion. So it can be dangerous, and typically it's not recommended unless it's for some sport specific, you're fully warmed up and you have a proper conditioning through that range of motion so that your body is capable of handling that type of momentum. So look, let's recap. Massage breaks up adhesions, breaks up scar tissue, right? Increases your range of motion. Foam rolling, self-myofascial release, same thing, right? It's like flossing, okay? With the foam rolling, you don't want to overdo it before you start working out because you don't want to dampen the central nervous system and by over-rolling the fibers. You just want to work on your problem areas to increase your range of motion to effectively strength train or whatever your workout might be. Then you have your static stretching. You have your total passive, which is not as effective as using the reciprocal inhibition or the PNF. Those are the ways that you're really going to address where you have linked tension relationship issues, where maybe you have really rounded shoulders, right? And you need to really increase your flexibility in your shoulders by using those active forms to retrain the body to get back into alignment. And then you have your dynamic stretching. That's what you want to use to warm up. That's how you get started. So maybe you can jump on a bike, ride for about 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes, just to warm your body up globally. And then you go and you do a full dynamic warm up, full from head to toe, through your shoulders, through your upper torso, your lower back, your hips, side bending as well, your knees, ankles, full body. Then ballistic stretching, that's more sport specific. You'll probably know if you need that based on if you are an athlete or not. That's it. That's kind of how you program your stretching. Those are the tools you have available to you. I recommend memorizing a really good dynamic stretch and then getting yourself a really hard foam roller. Not a soft one. Too many people roll on soft foam, rollers you need it to be hard to get those adhesions out. And you can use this with your active stretching. So you can kind of break up the knots, and then you can use that active stretching to really open up those areas and realign the body, and then do your strength training to hold that posture in. You've got to get into this stuff. You have to do it, otherwise you will get wrecked. It's like I say, you cannot build a strong body on a weak foundation. And if you're not incorporating flexibility, and if you're not educating yourself on how to tune up your body, flexibility is not like something you spend an hour doing. It's a tune-up. You're always constantly tuning up certain areas. You're using your foam roller and you're finding those knots. Oh, I'm getting some knots in this area, breaking it up, right? Actively stretching that area, strengthening the opposite side, keeping your body in perfect balance. And then that way, when you go to really strength train, all of your muscles are in alignment and they're all recruiting and they're all firing and delivering the appropriate force. And that's how you get strong and you stay injury free. So I hope this helped. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. I'm more than happy to answer it. And if you don't have one, get yourself a hard foam roller. Get yourself a nice, simple, dynamic routine, and start breaking up that plaque. All right? Take care.